College International operates in over 2,000 villages in 93 countries worldwide. The impact of direct training and services ripples out to impact more than 2 million people, giving communities access to clean water, lucrative livelihoods, and safe, renewable energy. This journey has inspired many to learn and share the value of rural wisdom. Greetings to all watching and listening to this. I'm Tej, and with me on today's podcast is Cassie Piccolo, Global Communications Manager at Barefoot College International. Cassie has witnessed hundreds of rural women from around the world experience a transformative, empowering journey through livelihood and educational opportunities. And I'm sure this has been a transformative experience for her as well. Let us hear the story of how Barefoot came to be. Welcome, Cassie.
Hello, Tej. It's a pleasure to speak with you today.
Lovely to talk to you as well. What I know about Barefoot College is that it was founded by Sanjit or Bunker Roy in 1972. I'd love for you to share the story with our audience.
Well, in 1972, there were actually multiple founders, and Bunker Roy is one of the ones who is known today. And then there was also Guruji, who ended up being the founder of the solar program in the 1990s. So we have actually been working with solar for a very long time, over 30 years. It's
Yeah.
pretty amazing that he saw the potential benefits of solar so long ago, long before most people were talking
Absolutely.
about it. So it's really wonderful. And we did have multiple programs beyond solar that multiple people founded that we found to be very significant, like children's education, access to clean drinking water, access to food, agricultural practices that are more in line with nature and sustainability and regenerative practices. So, yes, we have a very long history as an entire entity, and in fact, Barefoot College International is a much more young program and began in 2015. Um, but yes, before that, it was completely in India. And today, we are now in more than 93 countries around the world.
Absolutely. And you talk about rural wisdom here. So, is the local rural wisdom also taken into account before implementing certain programs, of course, for the empowerment of women?
Yes, absolutely. And rural wisdom is such a diverse um, aspect of the programs. And of course, we try to keep everything locally and regionally relevant because of that and take those rural wisdoms into account. So we work very closely with the communities, with our ground partners who are much more locally informed. And we take all of those wisdoms into account when we actually create the programs so that they make sense in the places that they're targeting. For example, the needs and wants of the community, what they already know and what they believe are the most important aspects of the program. So we always take those into consideration. And we know that the value of rural wisdom can often be overlooked in the way that some nonprofits sort of approach these programs. And we
Mhm.
see that grassroots approaches are so valuable and getting people involved in all at all ages and all levels of formal education are really really important. So we do take that very very seriously.
Right. So, Cassie, tell me, how does this program work in any organization in the community? Currently, you are in Guatemala, and you are. What are the things that you are doing there?
Well, right now I'm personally here to oversee and facilitate the solar electrifications. So back in October of 2022, we actually had our first cohort of women to be trained in Guatemala at our training center. Over the last few years, we decided to decentralize much more from India so that we could train women closer to home. And so we have begun, sorry, I just have to adjust these. Um, we have begun to build training centers around the world. So we have a few in Africa, one in the Pacific Islands, and multiple ones in India, actually, in the east and in the south too. So our approach there is to ensure that we can train more women. So now that the women, the very first cohort of solar engineers in Guatemala have graduated and finished their programs, they are now fully solar electrifying their villages. So we are capturing those stories, we're interviewing the women, and we're making sure that everything goes according to plan. And these are, of course, very remote communities. They're the ones that are most in need. They're completely without access to electricity, and they're the perfect candidates to benefit from having solar light in their homes. There's
I'm sure.
also in Guatemala a coffee curriculum. We have a fair trade program with local rural indigenous women here, and it is just
Mhm.
about coffee harvest time here. So we're also facilitating that. So those are some of the
Awesome.
reasons that I'm currently here. Yeah, yeah, it's a really wonderful program, and actually, I just took a journey to one of our women's coffee plantations, and I didn't realize
Hmm.
the need for the elevation. So her home is about 600 meters higher than the coffee plantation. So you have to go down a very steep mountain to get to the coffee. And then it's about on an angle like this on the side of a mountain. And it's actually quite treacherous. And the hike down is a very arduous one. So it was quite an adventure. And I will certainly appreciate every cup of coffee I drink after seeing what the farmers go through to get those cups of coffee to us.
Wow. That is something that nobody has ever thought of, right? Harvesting coffee, something that you take as granted every day. Um,
Absolutely. And sorry, I just the one main reason that we really find this program significant is because if the women, most of the co-op people are women, not always, but we certainly cater to women in the coffee program. And if it's not a fair trade price, they are making between $5 and $10 a day. So it's a very low
oh,
price for the amount of work that goes into it, and that is why we are trying to expand this program and promote organically grown coffee as well.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Let's talk about the solar mamas that you have. I just read on your website. So, how long is this duration? The training course? How long does it take for somebody to be qualified to be able to make a solar lamp or light the entire house?
Well, originally the program was 6 months long, and almost all of the women trained at our campus in India. And so um, that included sort of a buffer time for the women to adjust to a very different climate and different culture and be so far from their families. And now that we have sort of changed that program to be decentralized and closer to home for them, the program can be shorter so that they can go back to sort of their families and daily lives and all of the responsibilities that many of them have at home. So the program has shortened to be closer to 2 or 3 months, depending on where the women are. But yeah, the original program was 6 months, and now we have shortened it sort of to give the
3 months,
women a better.
right?
Yeah, to usually the last one I believe was about 10 weeks, so 2.5 months. But again, we're sort of tailoring it to the country that they're in and the regional needs, and so that's what we think works the best right now for the women as well. Many of them have families and many children and husbands who sort of need them at home to help them, and a lot of them are farmers. So the less time, the better. But it is a very it's a real like classroom for them. They study for about 8 hours a
Mhm.
day, Monday to Friday, and it's a real classroom feel. So it's sort of a bit more crunchy maybe for them to have to learn so much so quickly, but we find that they absorb everything really well that way, and then they are able
Mhm.
to get into the fields and remember everything almost off by heart and install the systems themselves. So it's been working really great this way.
Wow, that's incredible. Let's take a break to understand what Chezuba is. Everyone at some point ponders on how this beautiful life can be made more meaningful. Maybe you're a leader trying to enhance your employees' experience at your organization. Or you already work for the community and seek volunteers with state of the art skills to strengthen your nonprofit. Whatever your situation, know that you can make a difference. Chezuba began with this very vision, a vision to facilitate every skill and every passion in the world in meeting a social need. Corporate volunteering has several benefits for both businesses and organizations. In parallel, experienced and enthusiastic volunteers join NGO workers, enabling them to serve the community more effectively. Chezuba offers everyone looking to add purpose and meaning to their lives a chance to connect or volunteer virtually with nonprofit organizations from over 100 countries around the world. Visit www.chezuba.net and explore opportunities to find meaning. Chezuba, your platform to do good. And now, back with our guest. When you say solar mamas, could you just tell the audience what exactly are you training the women to do? And are these women coming to you voluntarily, or do you pick them for, I won't say intelligence, I probably will say a basic understanding of terms or communication for that matter?
Well, the selection process we find is very unique because we do try to find women who, regardless of their formal education, in some cases none, no schooling, completely illiterate.
Yeah.
We mostly look for women who, first of all, hear the opportunity of the program that we're offering and are very enthusiastic about it. Um, Also, we do try to find women who we find have natural leadership skills or an eagerness to learn and have knowledge, and also women who are available. So some women are just so busy with their chores and farming and husbands that don't want them to leave that we make sure that it's very consensual. And in fact, very often we seek the insights of the community, and they often will vouch for certain women who they think would be really good candidates for the program. So those
Mhm.
are sort of the candidates moving forward. And then, of course, the solar mamas are these amazing women who become solar engineers. So the program is very hands on because of the fact that some of the women have no literacy rate. And,
Mhm.
sorry about that. And
Make a solar powered lamp.
yes, and be able to maintain, install, and assemble the solar home lighting systems. So that's with the battery, the charge controller, all of the wiring, the installation of the panel on the roof, and then the lanterns and the torches that we have that each family also receives with the solar home lighting system. So it is a very technical program, and it really speaks to how incredible women are and how all women are intelligent and have the capacity for learning, even when they haven't been given a formal education when they were younger. So
Mhm.
at the end of well, during the program, first of all, it's hands on learning, and it's a book that each of them receive that is almost completely pictographic. So even if they
Big-
don't have any literacy, they are able to look at the pictures and use the hands on curriculum that we have and be able to learn this. And they practice multiple times over and over again with the circuitry, with the soldering equipment, with all of the tools, and practice to see exactly how it's going to work in the field for them. And of course, we have the Solar Master trainers. We almost always have at least one or two who come from India because they have a lot of experience. Our solar program, some of the trainers are 30 or 20 years in the business and themselves can be illiterate as well. So it is a very hands on, practical, applied knowledge. And we always quote ourselves as learning by doing. So that's largely how our programs work, as opposed to the academic side that is so often, I guess, associated with something like engineering. And it is so technical, and yet all of the women graduate. And I've just seen them in the field, and they're just amazing and efficient and quick and confident. And the work has been so beautiful to witness. And they're really doing an amazing job. Each and every one. We had 10 women graduate in our last class, and they're just doing an excellent job. And they're so cooperative and so inspiring.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a great change from where they have started to where they have come. Um, how long have you been there, Cassie? As in,
I'm
how
just
long
coming
have you
up
been?
on Yes, I'm just coming up on my fifth year at Barefoot College International.
Alright. In so many years of work, what have you seen that inspires you?
Wow. Uh, Honestly, so many things. But if I had to choose, um, I would say some of the women that I've interacted with. When I started working, it was in India, and I did live in India for about a year. And that is when we had about 14 different countries, 10 to 14 different countries at a time studying together, about 60
Mhm.
women from all walks of life. And some of them had very challenging home situations, very, very
Mhm.
challenging. And regardless of that, the ability for them to overcome and bond and interact with women from around the world, even when their languages were completely different and their cultural backgrounds were
Mhm.
completely different. They were able to come together and somehow communicate, somehow be able to express themselves and feel safe with other women and actually have conversations, maybe for the first time in their lives, with other women to be able to talk about um, how they were worthy and how they were strong and how they had potential and how they deserved to have leadership roles in their communities was extremely, extremely inspiring to me. So we did have women who came from very abusive domestic violence
Mhm.
relationships. We had women who were widows and had to take care of 5 or 6 children on their own, with just
Mhm.
being a farmer or a very simple merchant in town. And regardless, they were making by, they were being very strong, and they were taking care and supporting their families. So those things to me are just incredible. And some of them with no education whatsoever. Some women came and they learned the colors for the first time in their life. They didn't know the names of the colors. So
Oh,
just yeah, amazing, amazing stories. And just the ability of women to overcome any of these challenges. It's so inspiring.
that is amazing. So today, Cassie, tell me, what could Barefoot College International use in terms of volunteers today?
Well, we we have so many international programs running at the moment, which is great. We've really been expanding over the last year, I would say. During COVID, to be honest, we were trying to just make sure that all of our staff and our associates and our ground partners were safe and taken care of. So we really just sort of stayed grounded. And I would say this early 2023 and late last year, we've really grown. And so we have so many new avenues that we really need to find support in. And a lot of that, I think, right now is more on the technical side of organizational things such as M&E, monitoring and evaluation. Fundraising is a really important one for us, and public outreach, because um, somehow we find that people still don't know our names in certain places. And it's strange. Sometimes people know exactly who we are right away, and sometimes they don't. And I think it's time for us to start becoming a more household name, because our programs really can be scaled in any country. And
Absolutely,
seeing
yes.
firsthand how beneficial it is in the field. For example, one of the villages I just went to, we began electrifying that village in 2015, and we didn't have all of the homes installed yet. And this year, the
Mhm.
very last house in the village was installed. And when you see the difference between those homes that were installed in 7 or 8 years ago, they have prospered so much. And the ones that hadn't yet, they were living in extreme poverty. And so when you see the benefits of this program, it's so important that people do hear about this and see the potential in countries that could really use this program for themselves.
Absolutely.
Sorry
That
if
is
that
such a
was a
wonderful.
very long winded answer.
Not at all, not at all. This is something that anybody and everybody can benefit, regardless of the remoteness of a place, because this is something that the world needs today. Solar power harnessed is something that everybody needs. Anyway, and having that with women empowerment in its true sense is like giving a lot of value to a community, a lot of value to women to feel their own strength and be able to express themselves as well. I think Barefoot College International is doing a great job, and I would request all the people listening, watching this, to volunteer and help in any which way they can in the areas that they deem most suitable for themselves. Thank you, Cassie. It was wonderful talking to you. And I
Thank you.
hope you have a wonderful stay at Guatemala. And I would love to hear from you. And please share pictures of the solar mamas and the villages. I would love to hear from you.
And I would love to share those. We did capture so much in the field over the past few weeks, and some really incredible stories, and challenging things as well. Of course, we see the effects of climate change, and that's why climate justice is so important to us. And we do see that women are the key to us succeeding at defending ourselves and gaining resilience over what's to come in the next few years. So thank you so much for your time today.
I love talking to you. Oh, and on a parting note, could you just tell everybody why it is named Barefoot College?
Well, when the college began, um, and of course, we're not an official college by any standard, but the idea is that we are a grassroots college that anyone can attend. Any women, regardless of their education level and regardless of whether or not they wear shoes. So
Yeah,
it's really from the ground up, grassroots, and focused on the most marginalized communities to try and achieve global equity. That is one of our main goals. And of course, like I said, climate justice, which is so important today because that is one of the most threatening and challenging things to the rural communities. And we really do believe in the potential that really is largely untapped in
there
these
is.
rural
Yes.
communities and in women who are very often the last to receive such opportunities and should be the first to receive them. So
There you go. Wonderful. Thank you, Cassie, once again.